Evening all, and welcome to episode 4 of season 8 of Factory Town, where we are going to pick up where we left off and carry on from there. But we need a grabber here because the arrow that auto outputs is only on the ground level. If you go above ground level, you need a grabber to grab that out, and you can run chutes at a high level. So this works. So there we go. Boom. It's getting one grain. There we go, and it's doing its thing. We could probably turn this off for water now. We don't need water on it anymore. But there we go. So you're getting grain, and you are producing flour, and then flour goes into the and it's being sold. We're not producing enough grain though. We need more grain. We need more grain. So to get more grain, we could do one or two things. We could build another farm and have that farm output into the grain mill as well, or we can add more workers. We have a workers thing here. We can add more workers to our farm to make them go faster. The general rule is that for most buildings, you don't want to add more workers to. And there's a reason behind that. But farms and foresters and miners and anything that harvests natural resources, you do want to add people to. And it's all to do with the bonuses you get. So here we go. If I click on this here, I'm going to pin this in the center of the screen so you can see it. We have workers, which is 1. And you see with mouse over it, it says 1 worker gives +1 work units. 2 workers gives +2, and 3 gives +3, and that's awesome. But if we go to the grain mill and look at the same thing, it says that 2 workers gives 1.5, and 3 gives 2. So for this building, for where people are working in a processing building, it's not really worth adding, because you put a second worker in there, which costs you another worker, and you only get 50% bonus. Whereas if you build a second grain mill, you're using 1 worker and getting 100% bonus. You just need extra space for it. Whereas the farm and forester and any other building that deals with natural resources gets 100% bonus to it. So it's worth putting extra workers into farms, into foresters and other places like that. So we've got 52 people. We're using 26. We're fine for it. So let's increase this. We can throw this all the way up to 10 people if we want. Zoom. There we go. Look at that go. Look at that go. That's dealing with 13 a second. And we only need 2 work units. So if I drop that down to 13 is, so we're producing like 6 grain a second or something like that. I whatever the numbers are. I'm not going to get into numbers here, but essentially it's how many work units you have divided by how many work units are required. It's how much you're getting per second. Now, the issue to this is that 1, the grain mill doesn't need that many. The grain mill literally just needs 3 every 4 seconds. And 2, the chute itself can't keep up with that much, I don't believe. I don't know what the exact number is for the chute, but it's so you could leave 10 people in there, and that's fine, but you're kind of wasting the people. Not so bad late game. Right now, we don't really want to do that. So let's bring this back down, and you can figure out the numbers. You can absolutely figure out, okay, so the easiest way to figure this out, and I'm not going to get into numbers too much because I did that a lot in the last series and I don't want to go overboard with it. But the easiest way to figure it out is to ignore the happiness bonus, just look at the worker bonus here. So ignore happiness. And if you get any other boosters, you can get coin boosters and steam boosters and stuff like that. We'll get into that later. But add them all together, but ignore the happiness bonus. So and the reason you ignore the happiness bonus is because the happiness bonus not only applies to the farm, but also applies to the grain mill. It's a universal happiness bonus if you're in range of a town centre. So you can just ignore it and do it. So if we go with 3 workers, that means we're producing... actually, if we go with 2 workers... Boom, 2 workers. So 2 workers produces 2 work units. And it takes 2 work units to produce a grain. So that means we're making 1 grain a second. Simple math. 1 grain per second. This requires 3 grain every 4 seconds, which means it doesn't quite require 1 grain a second. It requires just underneath that. So having the farm with just 2 workers in it is enough to keep up with the grain mill running at full speed. So yeah, I think that kind of works. That's how it goes there. You could of course tweak it by increasing the workers, increasing how many workers are in this grain mill. You can have boosters to it later on. You can change how things going on here. You could split this off to 2 grain mills if you want to, and then have 1 farm feed 2 grain mills. 2 grain mills go into a single town centre to sell more things. But I think we're keeping up with happiness. I think our flour needs to keep up with that. There is if I come down to the left corner here, there is a supply button, this little smiley face in the bottom left. Click this, and it shows a supply button. So this is global across your entire world, and also counts houses that aren't connected to town centres. So it's a little bit off, because you may not be supplying houses when they're not connected to town centres. So it would be nice if you could have a supply, if the town centre had a supply button. This here, so you see here, this is showing us it's got 36 out of 708 happiness maximum, because that's how many houses are here and how many bonuses you get. But it doesn't actually break it down for the one town centre, so you've got to kind of take into account here. But basically, we have supply and happiness. Providing this blue happiness bar is 100%, you're winning. You're supplying enough of the goods to the people in order to keep them happy all the time, and you're getting the happiness there. If you want to make more money faster, you want to make the green bar 100%. So right now, we're not producing enough flour to keep everyone happy. Some people aren't getting flour every time they want it. So if I go into this guy here, he's okay. See, he's actually, he wants flour. He'll happily buy flour, because right now we're using his happiness bonus instead of the supply bonus. So yeah, so he could happily do with more, or she, they, whoever. Doesn't matter. I don't know. They're workers. They're just workers. So yeah. So that one there is if you can get that to 100%, that means that you are making the most money. And if you get that one to 100, the blue one to 100%, you are making the most happiness. So right now we've got 3 things going, and they're all at 100% blue, which is fine by me. So we are happy, happy, happy. Life is good. Everyone is joyous. And there is much rejoicing. Awesome. So, what's next? Well, I think we need to look into some trees, because our lumber mill here isn't actually getting enough enough wood. It's struggling, which means this is getting no wood, which means we're not making any more wheels. We have 48 wheels. Wheels are used. If I remove all this here, wheels are actually used in wagons. Wagons are like workers, but they can carry 4 goods in one go instead of 1. But unlike workers, they can't harvest anything. They can only transport stuff. So you can't tell a wagon to pick a tree up. Only workers can pick trees up, and they come along. Caravans are the next upgrade for them, and then you've got a few other things down here, the heart drills and stuff. So yeah, you'd have a wagon, you'd have workers dropping stuff into a barn, and then the wagon picking it from the barn and going to where it's going to. So yeah. Or if we were producing enough planks to actually warrant it, we put a wagon down so it could pick up 4 planks in one go and move. But it's not right now. It's not. We need trees. And here comes the interesting thing, because, well, first and foremost, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We want to research forestry. And we need 100 research points for that. So we need to enable our paper again being sold to the school. So let's grab... I don't have any idle workers anyway. You are technically working even though you're not doing anything right now, but that's fine. Let's grab a worker. Let's grab you. You're wearing wheels from there. It's fine. We've got plenty of wheels. So I would like you to take paper into there, please. So we can sell a few paper. That's fine. We could make books as well. We have a workshop. We can make books with cloth, and we can get cloth because down here we have some cotton. So we can set that up as well. But for the minute, we're just going to go with paper. And we're going to sell 100 worth of paper, which isn't going to last very long because we don't particularly have enough stuff coming in. So first and foremost, what we'll do is we'll extend this chute. There we go. See, I put the chute down whilst they were working on it, and the guy put the logs on it, and then it went the wrong direction. So yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad. And then I'm going to grab all of you. I'm going to say grab the closest tree down here to the chute. Okay. The other thing about chutes that I didn't mention is that they do block paths. So right now we have a guy walking through the forest back here somewhere, I think, trying to pick up trees. Yeah, there he is. He's trying to pick up trees and trying to take it to there, and he can't go through here because the chute is blocking the path. So, yeah, we could also put another worker in, actually just putting stuff into here if we wanted to. But I think we're okay kind of for the minute for this. We just need to get 100 research points, which we're going to struggle for a bit. We'll very soon have to go to books because we're going to need more. So let's get to 100 research points, and we shall come back. We have new research available, which is going to be our fluid pipes. We don't really need them right now. We're not supplying water to anything via fluid pipes. So yeah. Oh, actually, hold on. You, my friend, could you supply water to here? Because I forgot about that. Because this needs water to make paper. So there we go. Awesome. Okay. So we'll be back once we hit the 100 research point. So 100 research points have been hit, and we can clickety-click. You can click down here, you can click on this bonus research button here, you can click the school and click research, or you can just press R on the keyboard. There are many ways to get research up, which is interesting. And we can unlock forestry, which is what we want. Boom, there we go. We have 2 new building types. We have a forester and a tree planter. Now, these do interesting things. So, let's go into the buildings here, and we'll go down to, the forester is the main building. It works like a farm. You put it down next to trees, it harvests trees, and when a tree has been harvested, instead of it being destroyed, like is what's happening here, these trees are disappearing, it will regrow the tree. The tree will regrow. So just like here, instead of destroying the crops, it just ends up in a smaller state. It will get consumed down. And trees do have affinity, just like everything else. Trees have affinity. Here's the area for the affinity for trees. So we can put a forester right here, and he gets bonus affinity straight away, times 4, which is really good. But we kind of don't want to do that. We're going to have another town for forestry. We're going to have like a town over here or something for forestry. I don't know where I'm going to put it exactly. Well, I know the exact numbers, the exact distance to go out, but we need to purchase more tiles and figure out stuff. So, yeah. What we'll do early on is just put a forester like in a forest that's currently here. You can plant trees, but they're not like crops. You can't just plant them on the ground. You can't just copy a tree and plant it. It says, no, can only be placed on a tree planter. I'm not sure why that's the case. Especially when crops no longer need farm tiles. They used to, many moons ago, they needed farm tiles. You had to plant crops on farm tiles. Now you don't. So I'm not sure why trees said trees. I feel like should be able to be planted on the ground, and then the tree planter should increase their affinity. I feel that's the way it should go, but oh well. And in farming mining, this is where we have tree planters. Tree planters require fertilizer and wood. So I suppose, yeah, it's a bit weird, but they don't increase the yield of the tree, which is strange. Although you can't actually look at the yield of a tree, apparently, unless you have a tree planter, I think. So it's a little confusing, if I'm honest with you. I'm not sure why it's that way, but that is the way it is. So yeah. And you can see here we have stuff slowing right down here. So I'm going to change up something here. I'm going to move the general store over to here. And I'm going to move the school down to here. Okay? And you are going to be changed to not do planks. You're just going to be paper. So we're going to prioritize paper, and then you're going to be the plank one. So let's unpause the game and see what happens here. You're moving back towards. You're supposed to be taking planks, and for some reason you now can't take planks. What happened to the plank? Okay. That's a little bizarre. Would you take planks to there, please? Thank you. There we go. That's a little bit. Normally they keep their inventory inside them, but unless he didn't have any planks, I didn't look. Maybe he didn't have any planks. I don't know. But this one's now doing planks, and this one's just doing paper. If you put multiple recipes into a building, it divides the work units between them. So right now, this takes 4 seconds to produce 2 paper. If we add the planks onto it, it takes 3 seconds to produce 1 planks. But the way it actually works is it takes 7 seconds to produce 1 plank and 2 paper. It's divided between the 2, so you're slowing down the paper and you're slowing down the planks. It's exactly the same speed as having one building do one and one building do another one, so you don't actually lose any time. But if you dedicate a building to a certain thing, it can seriously help speed up stuff because of how just how easy it is to move from, like, if this is just dedicated to paper, it will be producing more paper, and this one is just dedicated to planks, it's producing more planks than having one building do both. So yeah, it's not the same. Sorry, I messed up my wording there. You don't lose any time doing it. It's not like stuff is lost to it. It just takes a bit longer to produce two things. It still takes the same. You know, you still use the same amount of work units, but if it's dedicated to a building, it will take just the 4 seconds rather than 7 seconds to produce 2 paper, and this will take 3 seconds rather than 7 seconds to produce 1. But you still get the same amount of goods from it. So having dedicated buildings is better. Putting multiple recipes, not really a good idea. Can be useful in certain circumstances, like for instance in a workshop. If we want to make a book, we might have the workshop also making the cloth as well, and then it can just take cotton in, it can turn it into cloth, and then that cloth can be used to make a book. So you don't have to have another building or another intermediate change between the two. So it's just a little bit more helpful there. But yeah, so this is going well, and these people are actually doing really good job of keeping up with this right now. So yeah, I don't really need a forester, but we're going to put a forester in anyway. So we've got one. We're going to put it in these trees here, and then I'm going to just let these all consume all these trees up here, and then we'll connect the forester up when we need to. So, forester, put on. Like a farm, they have an area effect. It's slightly larger than a farm, 1 tile larger. But anything inside the tiles will be picked up. So, if we were to put it there, it says at the bottom, linked to 79. Now, we would lose some because we'd have to get rid of the 9 in the centre. So we'd go down to 70, and we'd have to have a path come out, so we'd go down to 60 something. You can put them on the edge, that's absolutely fine. Link to 29 of them, and then you can plant more around if you want to. I tend to like putting them inside. So they're like, you know, little forester duck, and they're like here, we put a forester right inside a forest and have a little path going out of it, and away it goes. Also bear in mind, if you're going to be using it near a town centre and you want the happiness bonus, you do have to actually run a path to it as well. I'm not going to do that right now because this is not where the forester is going to stay. So we need to come here and we need to remove nine things in the center here. So get my camera nice and square so I know exactly where it is. So it's right there. Go to my fit, go to my remove tool, and remove those. Boom, boom, and remove those. Okay, forester goes in the centre, but forester instantly knows he needs to pick up wood. He can also harvest apple, pear, dragon fruit. They're all trees, so anything that's a tree you can do that. And again, it has an auto manage, so if you put multiple ones down, you can have apples and pears in the same orchard, and it would work. So that's completely doable. And yeah, and he's going to produce the stuff, and it's going to come out, and then we can run a chute along, connect to here. And then the forester will supply all the stuff instead of the workers, which is awesome and very useful. And it makes everybody happy. So I'm going to extend the chute out to there, so they get a bit closer to the forest. I'm not sure why he chose to go all the way around there when they can walk through trees. A bit of a strange thing, but anyway, it's fine. It's fine. So there we go. So there's a forester going. And it's not connected yet. There's no point doing that. So no, again, foresters use the same principle as farms. If you mouse over this here, they gain +1 bonus. They get 100% bonus from a worker, so they are worth putting extra people in. I think it makes sense that it does this to the natural resources because they're kind of limited to where they can go. They have to be on the ground level, these other buildings, like a grain mill, you could raise them up. Like I raised this chute up here. There's no reason why I couldn't have the grain mill above ground. You could even put a grain mill on top of another building if you build the scaffold around it. You can do that. You can stack houses. You can do all sorts of stuff. It is entirely possible. I could raise this grain mill up and put it on top of the food market, and then somehow, I'm not sure how I'd figure it out, but have the chute go down into the food market, and it would still work. And then we could put something underneath it. Very useful for roads. If you want to run a road like we have a road underneath here, you could do it that way. You can also run roads at a higher height, providing they connect to the building. They will still connect everything up. And by connect to the building, I mean buildings do have a limited height. So if I get a scaffold, so we know we can output on the ground level. That's a thing. Ooh, turn that off. I don't want to actually. Let me grab a building that doesn't actually output onto chutes, so we don't break anything. All buildings are the same. All buildings are exactly the same height. Even though some of them look taller than other ones, they all follow the same principle. So you can output here on ground level. You can output here on one level higher. You can output, if you go 2 up, you can do 2 up like this. You can output there. That's fine. That works. And you can even, if we go 1, 2, and 3, you can even output there. That will work. But that's as high as you can go. That's as high as you can go. So you can go up. You go ground level, and then 3 blocks, scaffold blocks going up. Scaffold blocks come in all sorts of types: wood, stone, cheese is a thing. So yeah, but essentially that's the 4 different heights you can output there. Chutes and conveyor belts all follow the principle that there must be a space above them for an item to travel along it. So, for instance, let's clear this out actually for the minute. So let me show you here. There we go. So if we have a chute pulling out here, and it had item traffic, I could actually show you this. If I pause the game, I can actually physically show this because it's fine. We can deal with losing a little bit of stone, it's fine. So if we have an output there, and then we would say, hey, I want to have another chute above it, for instance. You think, well, I put some scaffolding in, like that, and then I put another chute above. You know, we'd have a chute, say we had a chute coming this way. Say I had to go over. I think, there we go, it goes over, that's fine. Now that won't work because it blocks it. And it's because this chute, it's very difficult to see unless I can't really get much closer than this, but the scaffold arch or the scaffold block, they actually physically block. You can see they're physically blocking the chute. So what you have to do is you have to go 1 above it. So you put in a wooden pillar, and then you put in your wooden arch above, and see, it leaves a gap underneath. You see that? It leaves a gap underneath there, and that will allow your goods to go through, like so. Put on, through they go. If you use a scaffold block, however, because the scaffold block has a wooden line at the bottom, it's got a support at the bottom, it doesn't. It actually blocks the goods again. See, this is blocked. So you have to use the scaffold arch. It can be wood, it could be stone, it could be whatever it wants to be, but you have to use the arch if you do it that way. There are some important things to remember when you come to building things, particularly over water. We don't have any water, so I can't really show it. But if you, when you drag a chute or a belt or anything that requires a support block, when you drag it, it will build on the support block that you started on. Hopefully that makes sense. So I put a wooden arch here. If I click and I drag this, I'm going to hold control so it stays at the correct height. You can hold control to make sure it stays at the height. If you don't, it will always go back down to ground level. It will try and figure out like going over things. So, for instance, if I grab a chute and then do that, it will automatically go over stuff, which is really good. But if I build this up a couple and then have a chute and drag it and hold control, you see it builds the wooden arch because that's the one we're using. We started on wooden arch, so it carries on using the wooden arch. If you do the same with stone block, we put a stone block in, and we'll grab a chute and then drag it out, and you'll see, boom, it does stone block. That's absolutely fine. Now the stone block would block the tile underneath it, whereas the arch will not. And also, if you go to the stone one here, you can see in the bottom right corner, it's got the other thing. So there is a stone arch as well, if you want to go with stone instead. Absolutely fine, you can go with that and drag this out and go with stone arches. But there we go. Now, if you try and drag a chute across a river and you hold control so it doesn't go down the river, it shouldn't go down the river anyway, it should go across, but you hold control and whichever. If you drag it off a mountain, drag it off whatever that, it will always default to using the wooden scaffold block. So this one, which has the bar at the bottom. This is the default block that it always goes to. Now, if you keep that in mind, because this will block the area below it. So if you were to go just up by 2, and then you drag your chute across, and if there was a chute underneath it, it would block the chute underneath. So you'd have to come in, you'd have to remove these 2 here, you'd have to put in your wooden arch, and then put the chute back in on the top. Whereas if instead, when you get to the edge of your mountain or river or whatever you want to do, if you just put in a single arch, just one right there, doesn't matter what's behind it, it could be any type behind it. You know, we'll put in a couple of weird things here, like that. Let's put in a stone one there. It doesn't matter what's behind it. If you start here and drag off, whatever the block is that it ends up on when it first leaves, if it has to create a new block, it will copy the support block from behind it. So just putting in the archway, wooden, stone, whichever one you want, just one block, and then dragging across will automatically add all the stone arches. And I recommend that. I always recommend that. That's the best way to do it. So then you haven't got to worry if you run a chute underneath. That will still go through. It's absolutely fine. They also kind of follow a bit of Minecraft logic, I suppose, the best way to do it. If they don't need supports, you can have things literally floating in midair. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. If I remove all these things here, zoom, you see that these are just floating in midair. They don't need any supports. They just happily float. Doesn't cause any problems. So yeah, it's you don't actually need supports. I put supports in places like here. Because it looks good. I think it looks good, and I prefer it. You put in many things there. You can also run chutes through wooden pillars. That's something I don't do very often, but you can. You see, if you in the wooden pillars, you see if I move the mouse up and down, it moves them up and down. So you can do that. You can drag out, and there you go. That's what I mean by that will automatically fill in with scaffold blocks because it can't copy wooden pillars. Because wooden pillars, I don't think can float. No, wooden pillars are the only thing that can't float. You need to build them from the ground up. So yeah, so that's really it with chutes. It does the same with conveyor belts. Anything that requires a support will do it. You can also, if you want to just put a block in the sky, if you select a block, any blocks, whatever, and you just push page up, you'll see it moves up. So you can go right. I want to make sure that this. So I want to put a belt in, but I want to make sure it's at least 3 above the ground, so I don't affect anything. Or 5. Let's go with 5 because 5 is where you can actually get above houses. So I'll grab this and I'll go right here and I'll put it back here and I'll just page up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click. I know that's exactly 5 above the ground. And if I grab a chute and run it across the top of the houses, it runs straight through. It doesn't get blocked by them at all. If I went 4, it would actually hit the top of the house, the top of the building and stop. So that's very useful. That's not a new thing, but hasn't been in the game as long as other stuff. So the page up one is very useful. And again, you can do the same with chutes. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you won't let you put the chute in because you need the support block first. So, just useful little things that I think may become unhelpful. May become unhelpful. English, no, speak not. That may be helpful to some new players or some even old players that don't know you can use that page up, page down thing. I don't use it that much because I'm stuck in old school mode, and I tend to just go, hey, I want to build up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I build a tower and then remove the stuff underneath it if I need to. But yeah, so that's there. That's awesome. That's all working. We're getting our forestry in. We're getting our bits and pieces in. We're getting more research in. We can do some more research. And what else could we research? Let's see here. More things. But we'll have to research more things next time because we have come to the end of our rainbow. At least for this episode. So, yeah, we'll leave this here and we'll come back next time and carry on from there. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this one and I hope to see you again in the next one. And until then, as always, have fun.